Hey everyone, it's Alissa from Planet Alissa, and I am here with a general video on reselling and talking about budgeting. This was inspired by a question that a viewer sent to me via YouTube, and it's a good question, and I think other people might have the same question, so I decided to make a video on the topic. And what she was asking about was budgeting as far as how much should she budget to be spending on inventory, each month, each week, whatever. And, what did I recommend? And that's a complicated question. It's going to depend on a lot of factors. So I wanted to talk about how to figure out what you should be spending each month or each week or however you want to figure it in terms of purchasing inventory, and know that there's no real hard and fast rules, but these are just some ideas to, think about things and how to look at it. So when we're talking about budgeting, what I think you really need to know is you really need to start at the end and kind of reverse engineer it. You need to figure out what you need each month, what you'd be comfortable with as your take-home pay each month. So, you add up all your expenses, what you want to put into savings each month, what you want to have, for fun or, whatever you want to set money aside for, and come up with your magic number. One thing to keep in mind when you're coming up with that number is to take into account taxes, which you will have to pay on your earnings from reselling. And, what you will pay in taxes will depend, on where you live. Tax rates are different country by country. I know I have international viewers who watch this. And, of course, it's going to depend on your situation, whether you're single, married, have dependents, don't have dependents, whatever your particular situation is, that will, determine how you're paying taxes and whatnot. So figure that out too when you are, coming up with this number, at least a rough estimate anyway. And then from there, we can work backwards to determine, how much to be spending on stuff. Now, again, we have to figure out some other things, and ROI, or return on investment, is pretty important. Your sell-through rate is also going to be pretty important, but first we'll talk about ROI. And so to determine that, what that means is if I buy something for, $10 and I'm able to sell it for a price where my take-home pay after all my fees and everything is $20, then we're talking about something that has an ROI of 100%. That means I can turn $10 into $20, which is, fantastic and wonderful. And I think all of us would take that all day long if we could. Unfortunately, it isn't always that simple. And keep in mind, that doesn't mean buying something for $10 and selling it for $20, which is pretty easy to do. Unfortunately, you're not going to be making a lot of money if you're doing that, because there are fees to take into account. If you buy something for $10 and are selling it via Amazon FBA for $20, you might actually be losing money depending on the size and the weight and all that of the item. So you do have to really look at how much, the fees are going to be for the different places that you sell items. Also look at, if you're selling on eBay and you're offering free shipping, then you have to pay for the shipping costs. So all things to take into account when you're, at the purchasing level of things. So determining ROI is going to, you're probably going to have an average. If you're doing a lot of thrifting, it's not unreasonable to, maybe get an average ROI of close to 100%. But if you're doing a lot of retail arbitrage, it just doesn't, you're not going to average out to 100% ROI. Are there items you're going to find where you're going to be able to double your money on? Yeah, definitely. I just don't think it's realistic to, have your total inventory like that. And it limits you. It limits what you can buy and limits what you can make. You have to really be willing to accept less return on investment because you can do things in bulk and make good money. And there's really nothing wrong with turning $10 into, say, $15. you know, if you can do that over and over and over again, you can make really good money. And so, you know, I mean, you say, well, if I can make more money thrifting, I'll just do that. But there is a limit to it. And so you have that magic number you want to reach. There's a limit to how much stuff you can get at thrift stores. I mean, there's only so many thrift stores. You can go into a thrift store and not find anything, or only find like a couple of things, and that means you're going to be going to a lot of stores just to, you know, get to that magic number, you know, enough items to meet your goal for the month or week or whatever. So you probably, I mean, it depends on your business model, but for me, thrifting is only a small percentage of what I do. I do a lot of retail arbitrage because there are plenty of retail stores and there's plenty of money to be made out there. And, you know, I can sell stuff on Amazon. You can sell stuff on eBay even with retail arbitrage, depending on, you know, what you're purchasing. The other thing that you also want to take into account, and this is especially important when you're first starting, is how quickly you're going to sell things. Now with Amazon, you can pretty much see that when you're purchasing the item, because Amazon has so many statistics and we have that wonderful sales rank. So sales rank varies from category to category. You know, some categories are so like books, there's just so many books out there. You know, a sales rank of 1 million, even though that would be awful in another category, is pretty good in books. You know, sales rank of 1 million, it's going to sell pretty quickly. Whereas if you had a sales rank of 1 million in, I don't know, like home goods or whatever that category is called, that's not so good. You might probably want to stay away from an item that had a sales rank of 1 million. It was like, you know, something for the house or the kitchen or whatever. But it's not going to move too quickly. So when you're buying for Amazon, you can pretty much see, you know, how fast something's going to move. Obviously, when you're first starting, it's going to be a lot to take in and learn. But as you get used to it, you'll see, you know, you'll see what's going to move and what's not going to move. And you can go by that sales rank as a pretty good judge of things. With like Etsy or eBay, that is not quite as clear. eBay, we do have completed listing searches, so we can see how much something sells for. We can use that too to see how many, you know, things have sold recently, you know, that are like what we're looking at, to give us an idea. That's not totally accurate too, because something might be rare, so there just aren't as many out there to sell. And we also can look at, you know, how saturated the market is. Are there 20 people that have the same thing listed for sale right now on eBay? It might not move quickly because you got more competition. Someone's gonna, you know, mark it down because they want to move it out. Who knows? They might have had it like a year sitting around. Someone else will just come in and put it at auction really cheap. So it can affect how quickly your item will sell based on how many other sellers are out there selling the same product. So we don't have quite as clear a picture with eBay and Etsy. I mean, if you have some experience, you'll know, like, oh, I know I can buy, you know, something like this and it'll sell pretty quickly. Whereas other things, you know, it's a chance. It's maybe it'll sell quickly, maybe it won't. I don't know. But you have to assume that not everything you buy is going to sell, you know, within a week or a month of, you know, listing it or sending it in or whatever. So that has to, you know, be factored in too when you're thinking about your budget. And that's really what makes it so difficult when you're first starting, because you know, it's an uphill slope. Like, everything, you know, you're spending a lot of money, but you don't have any inventory in reserve that's going to keep selling, because this stuff will keep selling as, you know, you go along. And so stuff that you bought 6 months ago will be selling and you'll have money coming in from that, and that does help. But when you're first starting, I know it can be tricky. So determining your budget, you know, you're going to want to look at that sell-through rate. You're going to want to look at your ROI and, you know, average it out, because like I said, you're going to find items that, you know, you can sell for a lot of money. You're going to find items that you can, you know, maybe not double your money, but, you know, you can maybe get 50% return on investment, which is really good still. From all that data, you can kind of work out how much roughly you would want to be spending based on, you know, your average ROI, what your, you know, magic number is that you want to get to, and how quickly the type of items you're buying are going to sell. It's still a very rough estimate, and the other problem with this is that reselling, like many businesses, is seasonal and cyclical. So you're going to find certain times of year stuff sells a lot better. I mean, we all know the fourth quarter stuff sells like crazy, and things tend to slow down over the winter, but you're even going to have like some weeks that are really busy and some weeks that are slow. And by the same token, you're going to go out shopping, and some weeks you're not going to find much at all, and other weeks it'll be like you're hitting the jackpot. So when you're budgeting, it's tough to say like, well, I need to spend this much this week. Well, you might not find enough to spend money on, and or you might spend too much money, and then the next week you're finding all this stuff and you don't have the money to spend on it because of the way you've budgeted yourself. So it's something to consider. It's good to have a budget, but it's also good to be somewhat flexible, and to be able to roll with the punches and, adapt as things change, or, as opportunities become available. And all of this, might seem a bit overwhelming, and it's hard to come up with a number because there are so many variables in place. But one thing I will say is when you are first starting out, more so than as you get more experience, it's a good idea to really look for places where you can get things for cheap. I said thrift stores, but thrift stores are still pretty pricey. There's definitely a lot of good deals to be had at them, so don't pass them up. But also look for other places you can get stuff for cheap. I know some people use Craigslist or, different local selling, Facebook pages and things like that. Garage sales, rummage sales, auctions are a great place to get things for cheap if you have auctions near you. And, you can pick up, I could spend like $20 at an auction and have a car full of, inventory. So there's a lot of junk in there too that has to get thrown out. But hey, for $20, you could have enough that you can, make, $100, $200, $300 from that investment, no problem. So, it's a good idea to look for different opportunities, especially when you're first starting, ways that you can stretch your dollar and, make some more money, and build up, an inventory that you can keep selling as you grow your business, and it will help you down the road. So I don't know how much help this is, but hopefully it gives you an idea of some ways to think about things and some things to consider if you are hoping to, go full-time as a reseller, or just planning on, starting a business, and want some ideas on, how to plan and how to budget and, how to go about this. So I do wish you all lots of success, and thank you everyone for watching. Happy selling, everyone!